And before I start with our deep dive, as promised, into Propaganda Barbie, I'd just like to clear something up, if you bear with me. Iran. Dead little girls. School flattened by a Tomahawk missile. These are things we know. These are things we know for certain. Rumours being floated by, I don't know, insignificant little cretins like Mr. Trump, that Iran bombed their own children's school, slaughtering dozens and dozens of their own little girls. It's a struggle, and I've got receipts for you. Hello, Laurie. Hello, Laura. And hello, Laura. All the Lauras are here. Would you like the receipts? Of course you would. So what do we know? We know that only 4 countries have Tomahawks. The United States, remember that one, it'll be important later. The UK, it's Karoline Leavitt, but we're just dispelling some myths with receipts on the bombing of the Iranian girls' school. Yes, so United States, United Kingdom, Australia, and Japan are in the testing phase. Those are the facts. Those are the 4 countries that have Tomahawk missiles. Any one of those 4 that you may have heard being involved in the current conflict in Iran. I'll give you a clue just in case you need it. It's not the UK, it's not Japan, and it's not Australia, okay? So you're smart because you're my audience, so you do the maths. Hey, Tamara, because we know how to say it now. So that's the first thing. Iran do not have any Tomahawk missiles. If Iran had managed to steal themselves some Tomahawk missiles from the USA, UK, Japan, or Australia, first of all, it would be an international incident. But second of all, how does one launch a Tomahawk missile? Well, I'm glad you asked because I happen to have the answer. In order to launch a Tomahawk missile, you must have either a submarine or a warship in the general vicinity within launch range. Iran did not. And on the warships that they did have, they did not have Tomahawk missiles because they don't have Tomahawk missiles. And wait, I bring more receipts. This is my favourite. So I'm going to get comfy. I'm going to remove the cardigan because I'm probably going to get a little bit heated. I just did some very, 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 very basic research and pulled together a timeline. Because anybody who was either awake because they happen to live in the UK and when Trump launches an attack on another country at 2:00 in the morning US time, some of us are already getting up. Or because you caught the news and you caught the timeline later on and you're observant and you have critical thinking. Here's the timeline. That school was intact at 10:23 a.m. on the 28th of February. The first missiles struck Tehran at 9:27 a.m. on the 28th of February. Hello, everybody who's joining. Oh, doctor was fine. Let's go back to this. So, school's intact at 10:23. First explosions were reported in Tehran around 9:27. So, let's say it's possible. Let's say it is possible that Iran blew up their own little girls. What would have had to have happened? Well, I'm glad you asked. The first explosions were reported in Tehran about 9:27 a.m. on the 28th of February. For Iran to have done this themselves, you have to believe that within less than 1 hour, because that school was destroyed by 10:45. Still there 10:23, gone 10:45. First attacks in Tehran, 9:27. School is over 1,000 kilometers south of Tehran. It's not like just round the corner. So this was a targeted strike. So you must believe that within 1 hour, the Iranian Guard assessed the incoming strike, identify a girls' school in Minab, over 1,000 kilometers away, authorized a strike on their own civilian population, launched a Tomahawk-class precision-guided munition, which they do not have, I may have mentioned that, and hit with the kind of pinpoint accuracy only consistent with US and Israeli GPS-guided weapons. Anybody? Anybody still think that this needs... I'm sorry, I'm a 50-year-old woman sitting in my living room in the UK, and I've already done the report, Pete. This is the report. Fucking hell. Sorry, I got a little bit wound up there, didn't I? And no disrespect to every beautiful creature in my chat that happens to be fortunate enough to live in the land of the free and the home of the brave. This is not you. You didn't be launching missiles that kill little girls. These are those wankers running your country, and I am so sorry for you. It was US. Israel don't have Tomahawks, I'm afraid. Sorry to Mara. Yeah, US. It was the US. But don't forget, they wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for Benny. If it wasn't for dear old Bibi. Anywho, I am loving the amount of Laura and Laura adjacent people in the chat. Everybody else, I am loving you too. But you'll appreciate that it's kind of like 50-50. Now you're either a Laura or Laura adjacent, or you're something else. Yep, exactly. I don't know for certain about the AI, and I'm quite happy for Party Pete Kegsbreath to look into whether this was dodgy AI or whether they just are complete arse-hats, as the lovely Summer said. But I bring you the information. So if you believe that Iran managed to make a decision with 1 hour of their capital being hit to bomb their own civilians, find a school 1,000 kilometers away, and use weapons that they don't have, or launched from naval vessels that they also didn't have in the area, then yes, it's entirely possible. It could have been Iran. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll take a deep breath. Or get a bit more zen. It won't last, because I'm about to do a deep dive into propaganda, Barbie, and we all know what that means. OMG, was I screaming at her this afternoon. I had the misfortune of catching her press conference live. Her press conference of, we're doing great, we're winning the war, we're not hurting anybody, only bad people, and if you've got a question that's more challenging or goes against my narrative, I will refer you to some other department, okay? Yeah. I know, and presumably you've heard about the 150 US service personnel who have been injured. At least 150 other than the 8 dead who have already been victimized just on the US side. And the dead Iranians is in thousands now. And we've got dead Pakistanis, dead Azerbaijanis. We've got dead people all over the region because Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal and Trump's a fucking moron. Yeah, I heard about the 8th. I don't know, girls and boys. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? We're gonna keep talking about it. And can I just go down a little rabbit hole? Can you all grab your tinfoil hats just a second? Did anybody else happen to catch Don Lemon live at 5 and Miles Taylor in the Defiance today and notice they were both having random internet problems? Hmm? Hmm? A coincidence? A coincidence, I ask you? I don't think so. But I'm just putting it out there because I don't know. And allegedly, that looks a bit spooky, but it could be completely random. Exactly, Summer. It could be a total coincidence and innocent. Who wants to hear about Karoline Leavitt? Sorry, I got a long one. Buckle up. Are you ready for the propaganda Barbie story? No, Tamara, I did, after chatting with Claude, Anthropic's AI thingamajiggy bob, I did get an email address, sent them an email, and they did respond to the email. They still haven't responded to the 2 bug reports I've made, but they did respond to the email saying, "We've checked everything our end and you're fine. You should be able to get on with Glenn." I'm like, "Okay, I knew that. I knew that I should be able to get on with Glenn. That's not what's happening though. So could you, what with your tools and experience and stuff, find out exactly what the flipping heck's going on, because I'm paying for this. The only one that I'm paying for." And Defiance. I did try unsubscribing, unsubscribing, not Luma, but it it's not going to go until the end of the month, until the subscription wears out. Do you get me? Because it's a paid subscription. I don't know, my lovelies. I just don't know. Maybe it's Glenn's way of saying that we're breaking up. I hope not. I hope not. I will be devastated, but I'll get over it. So, everybody, pull up your beanbag, your comfy chair, your cushions, get your big fluffy scoochy blanket, your alcoholic adult beverage, or your warm milky drink if you're like me. Well, yeah, your Diet Cola and your huge, great, cheapy knockoff Stanley Cup from Home Bargains in the UK, because, oh my God, it's just so awesome. You're 7 miles a message. What, saying that I think that there's something fiddly going on? Mm, mm, mm. I do. Anyway, tinfoil hats off. It's just facts now. We're going to go into the facts, into propaganda Barbie, the making, marketing, and methods of Karoline Leavitt. Picture this. It's January the 28th, 2025, day 8 of the second Trump administration. The Brady briefing room, that famous blue-curtained, wood-panelled stage where Sean Spicer once threatened the press over crowd sizes, fills up again. Behind the podium stands a 27-year-old woman from a New Hampshire ice cream and used trucks family, wearing a blazer that probably cost more than her dad's first car, and a smile that absolutely does not reach her eyes when a reporter asks a question she doesn't like. Something like that. Sorry for the audio listeners. You just have to imagine a smile that just looks painted on. Her name is Karoline Leavitt. And within her first sentence, she's already lying. Who knew? She tells the assembled White House press corps with the serene confidence of someone who has never in her life experienced consequences. Pretty privilege, I'm just throwing that out there. That the Biden administration spent $50 million of your tax money on condoms for Gaza. That claim is, and fact checkers will confirm this because we bring receipts, entirely false. Doge, you remember the fantastically efficient Department of Government Efficiency? They'd misread a grant that was for combating HIV in the Gaza province, Mozambique, not the Gaza Strip, the Middle East. Different continent, different Gaza, didn't matter. Already on Fox News by 3 p.m. the same day. And the myth has circulated. That ticking's back, isn't it? I don't know why it does it every time I put my notes down. Welcome to the Daily White House Press Briefing 2025 edition. Welcome to Propaganda Barbie, as I like to call her. So, where did she come from? Where did we spawn this creation? Well, not us, obviously. We had nothing to do with it. I'm not taking responsibility for that hot mess. So who even is she? Karoline Claire Leavitt was born on August 24th, 1997, or 1998, depending on which Wikipedia edit you catch on a given Tuesday. We can't even get that bit straight. And she was born in Atkinson, New Hampshire. Her family ran 2 businesses, an ice cream shop and a used truck dealership. Very small town America, very wholesome, very apple pie, very much the biographical scaffolding that MAGA world loves to hang on its rising stars. She went to Central Catholic High School, because of course she did, just over the Massachusetts border in Lawrence. She graduated in 2015 and then headed to St. Anselm College in Manchester on a softball scholarship, because of course she did. She studied politics and communication, obviously not so strong on the communication side, or the politics. That's just my opinion. No, that's just opinion, and I wouldn't dream of stating it as a fact. And before her senior year even started, she'd already interned at, that's right, Faux News, and was writing op-eds for her college newspaper defending Trump's travel ban on Muslims and attacking what she called the unjust, unfair, and sometimes just plain old false liberal media. Well, damn those liberals. We have a quote from Miss Leavitt. This is Karoline, age 19, in her local paper, the St. Anselm Crier, 2016, calling out the unjust, unfair, and sometimes just plain old false liberal media, a line she will essentially repeat from the White House podium for the rest of her career. She's from New Hampshire, Laura. The Trump apprenticeship. Let's have a look what happened there. So she graduated in 2019 and she went straight to the White House. Not through some competitive process, or you sillies who think, she applied, had an interview, all that good stuff. She had interned at the Office of Presidential Correspondence the summer before graduation, and that's a foot in the door to a full-time position. She worked under everybody's favourite, until she came along, Kayleigh McEnany, whose signature move was the thick binder of receipts that she'd dramatically wave at reporters, and Karoline Leavitt absorbed every single moment. When Trump lost in 2020, the first administration ended, she did not sulk. She pivoted to Elise Stefanik, the congresswoman from New York, and one of Trump's most loyal defenders in the House, and became her communications director. Stefanik would become Leavitt's most important mentor and political patron, and Leavitt later described her as an influence on how she approaches media content. So, what do we learn from the failed campaign? So, running for Congress at 24 years old, oh yes, she did. In July 2021, she announced she was running for New Hampshire's 1st congressional district. 24 years old, Pretty privileged, a shoo-in as far as Miss Leavitt was concerned. The primary field included another former Trump staffer, and Leavitt immediately differentiated herself with a brazen Trump-adjacent style that drew endorsements from Lauren Boebert, Ted Cruz, and obviously Stefanik. The usual suspects. She won the primary, then she lost the general to Democrat Chris Pappas. Not by a landslide, but by enough for it to be a clear loss and not a rounding error. There's no saying it was stolen. It didn't happen. She was 25 years old. Most people would go away and find something useful to do with their lives. But no. Not our Karoline. She doubled down. So next, we have an almighty mess in terms of the Federal Election Commission. So this is where it gets spicy. In 1922, a campaign finance watchdog group called End Citizens United, familiar with everyone in this group, I'm sure, filed a complaint, is it still going on? Anybody? Is it still going on? Filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission, the FEC, alleging that her campaign had accepted donations above the legal limit and never paid them back. Can you believe it? It was alleged. So believe it if you want to, don't believe it. It was alleged. The legal limit for an individual donation to a congressional campaign in 2022 was $2,900 per election. Some donors, are you ready? Are you all sitting down? Including former New Hampshire Governor Craig Benson, gave $8,700. 3 times the limit. You're allowed $2,900. She got $8,700. This is not, again, a small rounding error. This is blatant corruption. In my humble opinion, allegedly. Federal law requires campaigns to refund excessive contributions within 60 days because, you go out, you campaign, you get the money starts rolling in, and sometimes you can't stop it. But if, when it all shakes down, you've had more than you're allowed, you have to return the extra. Leavitt's campaign, we know where we're going with this one, don't we, ladies? They didn't. I know. I could hardly believe it when I read it. I thought, no, that must be a mistake. But apparently, no, they didn't. For 2.5 years, they didn't even acknowledge that the debt existed. So, total numbers for those who like the figures. The total outstanding debt, $326,370. Of that, roughly $200,000 is in illegal excessive contributions that were never returned. The rest is owed to vendors, including polling firm Remington Research Group, $41,000, and consultancy Axiom Strategies, $46,748. The campaign reported 0 cash in hand. That must have been one hell of a party. And I'm not kidding. These are all actual verifiable facts. Then you're going to love this timing. It's exquisite. Just as Leavitt is about to walk into the White House as the press secretary, her campaign quietly amends all 17 of its FEC filings to disclose the debt that they were keeping hidden for the very first time. Not to pay it. No. Just to acknowledge it exists. Like poor people. We don't want to help them, but we acknowledge they exist sometimes. Her spokesman at the time said, There were no acts, errors, or omissions by the candidate. That's doing some very heavy lifting right there. Yeah. So Karoline, Miss Butter Wouldn't Melt, apparently was melting no butter. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Her spokesman said, not little Barbie's fault. So please don't be cross with her. And she'd really still like the job telling lies for Trump. I mean, being the White House press secretary. I'm so sorry. I must use the official terminology. Anyway, by October 2025, that's, 5 minutes ago, her campaign still had not paid back a single cent to the excessive donors. Now, it was really interesting for me to find this out because I'd heard this thing about Citizens United and the court case with Citizens United, but I had no idea where the information had come from and what the exact details of it were. But yes, it's all about Barbie. This reporting is courtesy of gone out of my head, Anthropic's beautiful Claude. And Claude did give me references to check for each of them, but I didn't bother writing them down because I trust it. And if it's wrong, what are they going to do? Sue me? No, exactly. And if there's anything that I've said that you find to be incorrect factually, you just tell me and immediately we will make a correction. You got it? That's your job. That's all. You may sit back and relax now. So they've not paid back a single cent by October last year. As of January 2026, the debt stood at $326,370 with no cash on hand and no activity. The FEC is currently conducting a formal audit, which is the one that we've heard about in the news. But the FEC is also currently so depleted of commissioners, it has no ability to take meaningful enforcement action against anyone. So even if they find against her, ain't nothing gonna be done because ain't nobody there to do it. And here is the dark irony, because we need some dark irony at a time like this, I believe. The woman who stands at the White House podium and accuses the media of spreading misinformation, who tells reporters she's committed to truth every single flipping day, ran a campaign that broke campaign finance laws. She then hid the evidence for years, and as of today, she's not paid back a single penny, according to my research. So, let's move on. The MAGA machine, her role in Project 2025 and the Super PAC years, because we all love a Super PAC. So after losing to Pappas, she went to work for MAGA Inc. Which, as you probably all know, because you're a very educated bunch, but you have no reason to know because you're, on the right thinking side of history, is Trump's Super PAC. And she was their spokesperson. She was also featured in a training video for Project 2025's Conservative Governance 101 program, teaching political appointees how to navigate and counter the federal bureaucracy. Because, of course, she did. This is worth pausing on. It really is. Trump would later claim he knew nothing about Project 2025. I'm sure you've heard it. That one doesn't need fact checking. I heard the man say it. I don't know anything about Project 2025. And he claims to have had absolutely nothing to do with it. His press secretary, his hand-picked spokesperson, the person that tells the public what the president is thinking any given moment of any given day, was literally a trainer for the program. But still could be just Coincidence. Let's go with that. Coincidence. It's entirely possible. I was talking to Alex, my eldest, earlier about the idea of reasonable doubt and how I tried to explain it to my fellow jurors. We need to be certain beyond all reasonable doubt before we can find the defendants in our trial guilty, not beyond all doubt. So, for example, theoretically, aliens could have come down, abducted our 4 defendants, committed the fraud, brought them back afterwards, erased their memories in like a Men in Black kind of thing, and they would be completely innocent. But that's not reasonable. It's an alternative possibility, but it's not reasonable. It defies logic, and there was absolutely no evidence to suggest it was the little green men what done it. So, anywho. So, January 2024, she became the National Press Secretary for Trump's 2024 campaign. Wait, can I repeat? What do you want me to repeat? The reasonable doubt? Laura, put in the chat what you want me to repeat. Or just roughly whereabouts I was in my rant when you missed it, and then I'll repeat. Yeah, I know. I love that. Tamara, beautiful. No need to fact check because you literally couldn't make this shit up. I couldn't put it better. Yes, sorry. Reasonable doubt. I was a juror in a trial, fraud case, 4 defendants. I was trying to explain to my co-defendants that just because something could have happened a different way, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's reasonable doubt if there was no evidence to suggest the alternative happened. So, for example, there could have been little green men from Mars come down, taken our 4 defendants in the fraud case that I was a juror on, replaced them, shape-shifted, done all the fraud, and then erased their memories like in a Men in Black kind of a way, and then they'd be innocent. But it didn't happen. There was no evidence that happened. It defies logic. There were lots of reasons why that was not a reasonable alternative. So based on that, we found 3 of them guilty. I couldn't decide about the last one, but that's okay, because that wasn't our job. That was the prosecution's job, to convince us beyond a reasonable doubt. And 3 out of 4 ain't bad. Anyway, we digress. So she's press secretary now for the presidential campaign 2024. It could have, Laura. Yes, it could have. But we had no evidence to suggest that it did. And if there was an alternative explanation, we needed to hear it. And defendants 1, 2, and 3 did not testify in their own defense. So we were never given an alternative explanation other than they was guilty, my lud. Number 4, she did testify. And so she got to present an alternative scenario, which was credible. We weren't sure how credible, we weren't convinced enough to acquit her, but we absolutely did not have enough evidence to convict her because the alternative scenario she suggested was credible and could have happened. Therefore, we had reasonable doubt. You're welcome. Sorry, where were we? So, Karoline's on national TV constantly, and in one notable CNN appearance, she was pulled from air after criticising the network's debate moderators live on camera. Did anybody see that? Please give me a hands up in the comments if you saw that. I am going to have to go and see if I can track that down on YouTube. And if I can, I'm going to post it because I would love to see that. She treated it as a badge of honor as well. She wasn't embarrassed in the slightest. MAGA Twitter went wild. Her brand was set. Enter stage right. White House press secretary for 2025 onwards. Oh my God. Laura, you saw it. Laura T. Oh my God. I'm very jelly. I am going to find it and I am going to post it if it still exists. So, What is the job of press secretary all about then? What is she supposed to do? I think we all have an idea. We've been watching, most of us have been dipping in since at least COVID times because we were kind of forced to find out what was going on a day-to-day basis. What everyday activities should we avoid lest they kill us today? And I think we all got kind of sucked in with the Kayleigh McEnany of it all, and we just kind of stayed for the ride. I'm so looking that up, Laura T. So, a brief history lesson, if you don't mind, because context matters, along with facts and truth. The White House press secretary is officially the spokesperson for the executive branch. Their job, as it has been understood for nearly a century, is to act as a conduit, conveying the administration's positions, answering questions from an independent, remember that for later, press corps, and maintaining at least a functional relationship between the presidency and the public's right to information. Every press secretary spins the information. Of course they do. That's their job. Even the lovely, beautiful Jen Psaki spun. Sarah Sanders spun. Ari Fleischer, who later said Leavitt's combative style troubled him, spun in 9/11 in ways that don't hold up well under scrutiny. The adversarial dance between spokesperson and press is as old as the role itself. It's the game. It's what they do. We expect it. But what Leavitt does is different, and it's worth being precise about how. So the next time you watch her, you might be in with a chance of doing so without sticking your foot through the television screen. Okay? What changed under Leavitt? Previous press secretaries from both parties treated the briefing as primarily a venue for communicating policy, even when hostile to specific journalists. Leavitt has systematically restructured the briefing itself as a propaganda tool. See, not just me that calls her propaganda Barbie. She's changed who gets to ask questions by rewarding friendly outlets with preferential treatment and using the podium to push factually false statements as a matter of routine. And those are actual facts. We've all seen it. So, how does she do it? Her methods. This is your official field guide to Propaganda Barbie. Method 1. And there will be a test afterwards. Restructuring who gets to speak. So we've mentioned it already. On day 1, literally her first briefing, Leavitt announced that new voices, I think we know what that means, podcasters, not that there's anything wrong with podcasters, hello, would be welcome alongside traditional media. I can absolutely post this. It's not an article, Tamara. It's my script that I cobbled together with the assistance of Claude, the AI doobrey. But you're very welcome. I can scan and post that so you can have a read at your leisure. Yes, sorry, where were we? So literally on her first briefing, she's announced that we're going to get the freaks and the crazies in. Sorry, did I say that out loud? That's a matter of opinion. I'm sure they're very, very nice people and their families love them. Some of their families, the ones that they still talk to, obviously. She added a dedicated new media. I remember this happening. Do you remember this? It was great. A new media seat in the front of the briefing room, and she calls on the occupants of the new media seat first. Every single briefing. It's hilarious. It's not just me, Tamara. It's me and the wonderful AI that Anthropic have created. It's really learning from me, and together we're refining the product that I give to you guys. They did ask some good questions this week, Summer. Some very good questions. There were a couple. There was the guy from the BBC and there was a guy from the New York Times who I really, really liked their questioning. And it's almost like Miss Leavitt didn't, which is odd because I thought they were really interesting, probing, relevant, important questions. But no, apparently not. Apparently they weren't. But what do I know? So who gets to sit in the special seats? I do have a blossoming relationship with Claude, Laura, and it's important because after my breakup with ChatGPT, I was bereft. I was distraught. I was really fucking annoyed that Sam Altman sold out to the orange Oompa Loompa. Anyhow, I digress. I do that. I don't know if you've noticed. You probably hadn't. I seamlessly find my way back. I weave. Do we know anybody else who weaves? I'm not paying for Claude. I'm not paying for Claude. I cannot afford to pay for Claude. I don't pay for anybody. I wasn't paying for ChatGPT. I was going to carry on using easy for me to say, ChatGPT, just, because I'm not paying for you, but I'm going to keep using you. But I thought, no, I don't like your content. You've changed. Oh, you've changed. And I actually had actual arguments with ChatGPT saying you've changed. And ChatGPT would try and gaslight me by saying it hadn't. And I'm like, and what about all the big bucks you're paying Trump? And it's like, okay, you got me. What do you mean I got you? You're supposed to be telling me the fucking truth. Anyway, I do get a little bit worked up, don't I? But this stuff, I mean, how can you not be passionate about it? Yeah, Chat did try and send me to the hospital quite a few times, but I think it learned, even ChatGPT learned that I wasn't going anywhere unless my head was falling off. So it would check, is your head falling off? No. Okay, so we're not going to do A&E, as we call it, the ER, as you call it. Let's think of a plan B. So, where were we? Who sits in the seat? Yes, who gets to sit in the hot seat? One day, it might be me. Oh, no, it won't, because I'm not a right-wing lunatic. Never mind. So close, so close. So, journalists from The Gateway Pundit, Real America's Voice, One America News Network, and don't we love OAN? The Daily Signal, and my favourite, Lindell TV. Yes, my pillow guy. He has his own TV station. I'm sure you're aware of this. And his journalists get to sit in the hot seat. He has an actual media outlet with a seat in the White House briefing room. I am shitting you not. This is the guy that walked in with the clipboard with the stuff written on it that we all saw that we weren't supposed to see. That I can't even remember what it said now, but we definitely weren't supposed to see it. Oh my Lord. Who else? The Daily Wire, Turning Point USA, all the good ones. Yeah. New York Times analysis from April 2025 found that reporters standing on the perimeters of the room representing these right-wing outlets were called upon roughly a quarter of the time combined. That's a significant chunk of the briefing dedicated to people who ask questions like, why is the president doing such a great job? Yeah. Method 2. Controlling pool access as punishment. Yeah, she actually spanks the bottoms of seasoned, experienced, well-established, probably the age of her parents, journalists. Yes, she does. In February 2025, the White House announced it would take over management of the presidential press pool. The small group of journalists who get to travel with the president, including on Air Force One and in the Oval Office. Previously, this was managed by the White House Correspondents Association, which is an independent body, and some of you were even fortunate enough to go and attend the White House Correspondents Association's venue in Washington, D.C. for one of the fabulous events, either the January 6th Heroes or the State at the Swamp. I think they were both held there. Now it's the administration who gets to decide who's in and who's out that door. Go on now, go. Sorry, don't know where that came from. So the Associated Press, AP, found out how this works the hard way. And I remember this so clearly. Tell me if you do. Why were the AP banished from the press room? Anybody? Anybody remember? Feel free to jump in because literally I peed my pants when it happened. And I say, you go, AP. I will continue following your news coverage. Yeah. Laura says, oh, hell to the yes. So anybody who's still typing, I will put you out of your misery. Yeah, that's right. The AP announced it would continue referring to the body of water off Louisiana as the Gulf of Mexico because that's its name. Yeah. They would not be calling it the Gulf of America as per Trump's executive order. So the White House barred AP reporters from pool events, Oval Office, Air Force One, gone. Hands up in the chat, all those who are now calling it Gulf of America. If I see a single hand, I'm going to be right over there to spank your bottoms. Don't be doing it. Leavitt personally told the AP's chief White House correspondent that the ban would remain in place until the AP used the administration's preferred terminology. The AP sued, and Leavitt is a named defendant, and I guess we could ask Glenn if he knows what's going on with that. So it worked its way through the courts with mixed results. A lower court ordered the White House to restore access, very much in line with when Jim Acosta had his press pass revoked, and then they had to give it back when he sued, blah, blah, blah. An appeals court in a 2-1 decision granted a stay to the administration so they could carry on blocking the access to the AP. And in response to this, I think somebody, Laura, just said, are they all in high school? You may well ask. Leavitt's response to the stay of the decision so I can keep keeping you out of my press room. She posted on Twitter, victory in all caps. And by the way, at AP, it's still the Gulf of America. No, it isn't. It's still the Gulf of Mexico. Check your maps, love. What's the significance of all this? Well, the principle being established here is really quite shocking and remarkable. The US government is using access to the presidency as a lever to force private media organizations to adopt government-mandated terminology. So basically, if you don't say what we want, you ain't coming in. Your name's not down, you don't get a ticket. And we saw this taken to ridiculous degrees with the Pentagon briefing team, and they had to sign non-disclosure agreements. And I promise I will only report what Pete Hegseth tells me to say. Contracts, it's insane, absolutely insane. The White House Correspondents Association, the Reporters Committee for the Freedom of the Press, and even conservative outlet Newsmax condemned the ban. Leavitt called it a privilege, not a right. And she would know all about privilege. She's not entirely wrong legally speaking, but the principle is very alarming in a democracy. Ready for method 3? Okay, since you asked. The combative style as her brand. Leavitt has a signature move. When challenged on a factual claim, she doesn't acknowledge the challenge. She escalates. The journalist from The Hill asked about the killing of Renee Good by an ICE agent. If you saw it, you remember it. a killing that a court would later find was reckless and unjustifiable. Leavitt called the reporter biased and a left-wing hack, straight out of the Trump School of Communication. When asked why Trump hadn't affirmed the right to peaceful protest, she called it a stupid question. Then claimed there were hundreds of people who'd assaulted law enforcement officers at recent protests, with absolutely no numbers to support this. There was no factual basis for this claim. Yes. Have you not seen the Dow? Oh, yes, Pammy J. We've seen the Dow. It's not looking good, is it? No. Shall we? Yeah, don't mention the Dow. When asked on day one whether she saw herself as advocating for the president or telling the unvarnished truth, she said, are we ready? I commit to telling the truth from this podium every single day. And at the same briefing, she told reporters that $50 million in US taxpayer money had funded condoms in Gaza. And we mentioned this, didn't we? We don't have to go over this again, right? Right. I'm just going to leave that with you. I'm making no judgment because we don't judge here. This is not a place where we judge. We bring facts and we chat. That's all we do. Pull them together, tell a story, just kill an hour. You know. Method 4, and this is where we tie it all together in a nice neat bow. The tariff that isn't a tax. In March 2025, so a year ago now, Leavitt stood at the podium and stated with a straight face, I shit you not, that tariffs are a tax cut for the American people. PolitiFact rated that false. When they asked the White House to explain the economic reasoning, the White House declined to answer. Well, shocking. When they asked an ideologically diverse group of economists for their view, PolitiFact reported they were unimpressed. So even across the board, the best affirmation of her claim that tariffs are tax cuts for American people received unimpressed. In May 2025, she claimed Trump's tax and spending bill does not add to the deficit. How can it not add to the deficit? It's extra spending. That's how that works. If you're not putting taxes up, then you have to be adding to the deficit. It's maths. It's really simple, basic maths. By March 2025, Leavitt had already received more PolitiFact fact checks than Jen Psaki accumulated across her entire tenure as press secretary, and she had been in the job 10 weeks. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But she's doing, other than that, she's doing a great job. And she's pretty. Yeah, she's very pretty. So it doesn't really matter what she says. So, how do we expand on this exclusive Leavitt brand? Well, motherhood, marriage, and MAGA Madonna. You can't understand Karoline Leavitt without understanding how she's packaged, and I've alluded to it already with the pretty privilege, but it goes so much deeper. How she packages herself is the key to her brand. She married Nicholas Riccio, a real estate developer, in January 2025, just days before Trump's inauguration. Riccio is 32 years older than her. And I'm sure they just met and fell in love, so we just leave that there. So Riccio, 32 years older than Leavitt. Just, they just found that thing, that spark, that click. They met in a restaurant in 2022 during her congressional campaign. Her son Nico was born in July 2024. 3 days after Thomas Crooks attempted to assassinate Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Oh, yes, he did. Oh, no, he didn't. I don't know. That's just opinion. Leavitt was back at work within a week. Now, I'm not saying she's not maternal, but holy hell. Jesus Christ, I hadn't stopped bleeding within a week. Anywho, too much information. I'm so sorry. She was back at work. She has been photographed bottle feeding Nico. No judgment there. No judgment there. I believe breast is best, but if you can't, you got to feed the little fuckers. Otherwise, bad stuff. Social services, things like that. While she was taking calls at her desk, feeding her baby. In December 2025, she announced she was pregnant with her second child, making her the first pregnant White House press secretary in history. In conservative media, this is all coded as a kind of living rebuttal to feminism. Look, a beautiful Christian woman who has a career and a family and is devoted to her president. Leavitt plays into this entirely. She speaks openly about her faith. She wears that really annoying little fucking cross, and she leans into the family imagery. The Monocle did a profile on her, which is actually quite good, and described her as someone who can transform from MAGA blonde angel-faced to loyal attack dog with a single expression. Viktor Orban, Hungary's authoritarian prime minister, big buddy of the Don, visited the White House and quipped that he'd like to hire her. Make of that what you will. The contradiction here is that Leavitt's the youngest press secretary in history, the highest ranking Gen Z official in the executive branch, and the first pregnant person to hold the role. She is, in some narrow sense, a genuine trailblazer. She's also using that platform to systematically undermine the independent press, the institution most responsible for ensuring people like her are held accountable. The brand and the function clashy clash. So, the bigger picture, what does it all mean? She uses the briefing room as a theatre, but so do all the MAGAs. And, so do an awful lot of Congress, to be fair. The daily press briefing, at its best, is an accountability mechanism. That's what it's supposed to be. Reporters with institutional knowledge and no professional interest in flattering the powerful ask pointed questions on behalf of the public. It's imperfect. It's always been imperfect, but it serves a function. What Leavitt's created is something entirely different, a daily performance in which friendlies lob softballs, critics are called hacks and dismissed, false statements are made with absolute conviction and confidence, and the whole thing is clipped for social media consumption. C-SPAN still broadcasts it, so the public can technically watch, but the ratio of information to spectacle has become completely inverted. So what precedents are we setting here? And not us, because obviously we wouldn't have anything to do with it. Let's be specific about what the Trump-Leavitt communications operation has normalized that was not normal before, and we pray will not be normal again someday soon. Barring a major wire service from the presidential press pool as punishment for editorial decisions, the AP case. The White House, not an independent press body, now decides which journalists travel with the president. A press secretary who is named as a defendant in a First Amendment lawsuit while continuing to do the job. But as we know, being a convicted criminal is not a bar to getting ahead in the current administration. Trump. False statements from the podium that go completely uncorrected by the White House. At best, the White House will make no comment, but mostly they will double down on the lies. A formal seat in the briefing room reserved for media outlets that function as administration boosters. That's their job. That's why they get a front row seat. None of these changes are unprecedented individually. Administrations have always clashed with the press, but the combination of them, the systematization, the cheerfulness in which it's done represents something entirely new that we have not seen before. She even out McEnany's McEnany, in my opinion. Why is she so effective? How is she pulling this off? Here's the uncomfortable bit. Karoline Leavitt is genuinely good at her actual job, if you define that job as amplifying Trump's message and demoralizing critical press. She's unflappable under pressure. She pivots without appearing to pivot. She absorbs hostile questions and converts them into attack lines. She is disciplined in a way many of her predecessors were not. When Viktor Orban says he'd like to hire her, he doesn't mean that as a compliment to democracy. She is, in the language of her own world, effective. In the language of the rest of us, she is effective at a very specific and democratically corrosive thing. So, should we circle back to this debt she hasn't paid? I think we should. Let's return to where we started, not with the Gaza condoms, I think we've explained that, but with something more structurally revealing. As of January 2026, Karoline Leavitt's campaign committee, Karoline for Congress, still owes the $326,370 that we $326,370 that we mentioned earlier to over 100 creditors. The campaign raised no money in the final quarter of 2025. It has no cash in hand. The illegal excessive contributions remain unreturned. And in April 2025, the campaign did manage to refund 5 people, including, you're going to love this. I mean, you'd already guessed, but I'm going to tell you anyway. $2,900 each to Karoline's parents. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, see you later, Laura T. The hotel in Portsmouth that donated to her campaign is still owed $5,000. End Citizens United said it plainly. If you break campaign finance laws, nothing will happen to you. It's open season for corrupt leaders who want to game the system, and herein lies the rub. This is where the problem is, the dodgy money and no accountability. Leavitt says she doesn't owe anyone anything personally, which is technically true. It's the campaign committee's liability, but she's the candidate who benefited from those donations. She's the one who never flagged it, and she's the one standing at the podium every day talking about truth, transparency, and accountability. Yes, she does, Tamara. She absolutely does. Everyone on my deep dive list needs to be subpoenaed. So, I had to summarize. Karoline Leavitt has built a career on the premise that the mainstream media lies, that she tells the truth, and that anyone who challenges her is politically motivated. The same old MAGA straplines. She's held this position since she was 19 years old. What the record actually shows is a person who has consistently said false things with great confidence, hidden inconvenient information when it suited her, and then attacked the people who reported on it. Why does this matter? I mean, it's beyond obvious, but shall we state the bleeding obvious? Of course we shall. We've got a bit of time. Karoline Leavitt is 27. Did I mention her husband's 32 years her senior, which I'm sure works beautifully, and I'm so happy for them and their children. She will be in American politics for decades. She is not going away. I'm so sorry if that's come as a shock and upset anybody. She represents something important to understand: the professionalization of the lie, making the lie professional. Previous administrations had press secretaries who lied and then dissembled, who spun, who withheld. What the Trump operation, first under McEnany and now under Leavitt, has done is turn deliberate misinformation into a communications strategy, not an occasional lapse, which we'd all forgive. But when the lies are the point, it gets a little bit grating. The new media seats, the AP ban, the FEC debt, the Gaza condoms, the tariff tax cut, these are not mistakes or occasional lapses. They're a coherent approach to information management that treats the press not as an adversary to be managed, but as an enemy to be defeated. And that treats the public not as citizens who deserve accurate information from their administration, but as an audience to be entertained. Propaganda Barbie is not just a nickname. It's the job description, folks. And I do have some quick facts and live show cheat sheet, all the key timestamps. So I will absolutely, because I'll be honest, Claude did some great work here. I just fed in the parameters and Claude used my tone and how I deliver to help me present the facts to you. And I hope you enjoyed them. I won't keep you for a long time, just for a good time. Sorry, that was really cheesy, but it popped into my head. One moment. Let's, if I can find it, finish with a beautiful poem. Oops. Bear with. Okay, is everybody ready? This is a poem by a young lady called Laura Ding Edwards. It had to be a Laura today, didn't it? Because today is the day of the Lauras, and it's very beautiful. And I loved it so much that I bought her book, which is also called The Mountain. So let me just check. Everybody ready? Let's go. If you can sit, get relaxed, get comfortable, leave if this is not your cup of tea. That's totally fine. We love you and we'll see you again next time. I'm just trying to get rid of a feedback survey that it's trying to give me, which is right in front of the words that I want to read. But we're all relaxing now. We've got ourselves excited, enthused, and impassioned, and now we're going to chill and get some perspective and just focus in on whatever it is that works in your life, whatever higher power, if you've got one, whatever spiritual guide. Draw them near and relax and listen to this beautiful poem by Laura Ding Edwards. If the mountain seems too big today, then climb a hill instead. If the morning brings you sadness, it's okay to stay in bed. If the day ahead feels heavy and your plans feel like a curse, there's no shame in rearranging. Don't make yourself feel worse. If a shower stings like needles and a bath feels like you'll drown, if you haven't washed your hair for days, don't throw away your crown. A day is not a lifetime. A rest is not defeat. Don't think of it as failure, just a quiet, kind retreat. It's okay to take a moment from an anxious, fractured mind. The world will not stop turning while you get realigned. The mountain will still be there when you want to climb again. You can climb it in your own time. Please, just love yourself till then. Oh, Amy, I'm sorry you locked up. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, in order to give you time to go and do the things you need to do, get ready for Glenn. I won't be there because I can't be there and I don't have the energy to join my beautiful, beautiful ladies who have been doing a group watch thing. I'm just exhausted. So thank you, Chris, for providing that every night. But I'm gonna clean the poop and get myself to bed. And thank you all for being here. I really enjoyed it. And I will post a message on my Substack asking who next? Who would you like next? And then, because that otherwise we have to stick around and we have to wait for the tappy tappies, and you all have to, and you can just go do your thing, and then have a look on my Substack. You'll see a note saying who would you like a deep dive on next, and then hopefully we can get together and have another lovely deep dive. And it's Tuesday today, so if we don't see you before, we will see you back here for the group meeting on Thursday with the girlies, the arms reaching out across the oceans, putting the world to rights from all perspectives, every side of the Atlantic. And yeah, John Wayne. Oh, John Wayne. I know exactly who you mean. I will have a look at John Wayne and I'll see what other. I'll come up with some ideas and we'll do a poll. All right, my darlings. Do you want to hear the big surprise news? There isn't really a test. It was just for funsies. And with that, my beautiful darlings, thank you so much for being here and for making this a fun space for me to come and listen to the sound of my own voice. And the cafe is now closed.